What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Progress Always, where we're here to build the fittest leaders through integrity, courage, and ownership. And I've got my man, Aaron Morrison, the mindset mechanic. We became fast friends after a very quick dialogue in Sebastian's group. And your story was so compelling. It warranted revisiting that conversation on the mic for all to hear. So I really, really appreciate you making the time and the speed of implementation, as you just said. We literally met this week, and here we are having this conversation. So, dude, Aaron, I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the opportunity, man. My mission and purpose is to raise the baseline of the human experience because needless suffering and wasted potential is a tragedy. So I appreciate the opportunity to share some information and hopefully some value with your audience.
Yeah, man. The transformation, the evolution from the roof leak guy, as I remember our brief introduction, to the coach that you've become was a byproduct of this season of your life that you refer to as the dark night of the soul. So let's start from near the beginning, but really the impetus of your evolution from blue collar, becoming a master of trade, to what you do now.
So we'll just start at the beginning and kind of fast forward through the first 20 years, right? So I started out my career in the construction industry, and I worked for a roofing company for 12 and a half years. And I rose to the top of that organization, basically second from the top. And I was responsible for 100 men in my division and about 10 million per year in projects revenue. And I mentioned that simply to illustrate my history in leadership. I've been doing this a long time. And I went off, and circumstances necessitated a division, a separation, and I started my own business, and I built that based off of word of mouth and referrals and networking to around about $500,000 a year as a solopreneur, working. I won't say part-time, but not killing myself.
Right.
And I did that for a long time. And I hit a certain point in the business that I call scale or bail, where it reached its kind of maximum potential if I was the only one working it. And I had to either hire people and grow the business, which I really didn't want to do, or I had to quit and go start over somewhere else. And I really, really didn't want to do that because that was both options terrifying and miserable. And then circumstances occurred where my divorce was final, that I'd been going through for 2.5 years, just kind of stuck and stagnated. The relationship that I had been in that started during that process ended. And that was what triggered the long, dark night of the soul. And without going into all the details of all the circumstances that transpired, let's just say that I was forced into a position of having to rediscover myself and recreate myself. And so it was through that journey of self-discovery and self-creation that I went to this training kind of serendipitously. And it was during the training that I had the realization that it wasn't about climbing on this mountain, this construction mountain. It was about deciding which mountain I wanted to climb. And the epiphany that I had was that my thinking was the limiting element in my ability to see and assess the possibilities that actually existed. And it went from this narrow-minded, narrow-sighted kind of, I either have to stay in construction, do something parallel to it, like real estate investing, fixing and flipping, that sort of thing, or being a real estate agent, or like using this knowledge somehow. And it was during that training that I got the clarity where the blinders were taken off, and I got this vision of a completely different future that was 90 degrees off course from where I was. I'm going over here, and all of a sudden, 90 degrees to the right, I went, ooh, look at that. It's like the Wizard of Oz, like the city of Oz rising in the distance. I went, I want to do that instead. And what that was the work of personal development and helping
Mhm.
other people to have the same kind of epiphanies and the same kind of realizations that I did. Because in my mind, it's kind of like the world went from black and white to color. And the image that I had was of everybody driving around like people as sports cars,
Mhm.
like Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and everybody's these high performance machines. But then when you look at the thought bubble over their head, they're believing themselves into a Ford Pinto or a Toyota Camry or
Sure.
or a minivan. Like it's our beliefs that limit the potential. It's our
Mhm.
beliefs about ourselves and what we deserve and what we our worth, if we're our good enoughness, all of these things. It's our beliefs that prevent us from even seeing the possibilities that are available for all of us. And so my core belief is that every single human on this planet has untapped potential because no matter how much work you do on yourself, no matter how much progress you make, no matter how far you get and how successful you become, as our capabilities increase,
Mhm.
the possibilities increase.
Right.
So we will never reach our full potential. And to me, that's an exciting thing because it means there's literally no limit to how far we can go.
Yeah. What strikes me in the telling of your tale is whether it was the workshop or sometime right before it that brought you to that workshop, there seems to be a moment where you stopped externalizing, maybe even blaming others, and started taking ownership of your own path. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, 100%.
What what was the light bulb moment that said, maybe not necessarily this is all my fault, but I for sure have a role to play in my circumstance?
It was actually years before that. And I was in a relationship and it wasn't going the way that I wanted it to. And I had a realization that, you know, the way that I was approaching it wasn't working.
Mhm.
And it was no longer sufficient or even acceptable
Yep.
to blame circumstances or to blame outside influences or anything else. That if I was going to have the sort of relationship that I wanted, if I was going to create the sort of life that I wanted, that I was going to have to tear myself down and
Mhm.
build myself back completely new, completely different. And I'm the only one that could do it. And so what you just touched on is actually what I consider to be the very first transformation required in our personal development.
Mhm.
And that is moving from being at the effect of external circumstances, like you said, externalizing,
Mhm.
our, our blame or fault or whatever, versus being at cause for creating the results that we want.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they're like, yeah, but I've got all these circumstances in my life that I'm not in control of. That I'm actually the victim of this.
Mhm.
And it might be true, right? We're not necessarily at fault for our circumstances. We're not to blame,
Right.
but the reality is it doesn't matter because these are
Mhm.
the circumstances. It doesn't really matter how we got here. What
Yep.
matters is that we are the ones who are ultimately responsible for creating the outcomes and the results that we want.
Yes.
And if we don't take responsibility for it, and that's not blame, it's not finger pointing, it's not fault. If we
Mhm.
don't accept the responsibility for changing our circumstances, then we're just waiting for something else to happen.
Mhm.
And we'll be waiting forever and we'll never have what we want.
Yeah.
And that's just sad.
So you did you have as you're moving through this dark night of the soul, it's not like you decide that you're going to move this personal growth and development route and abandon uh the the blue collar life uh regardless of how high on the leadership chain you climb. That transition, the success that is born of that transition isn't overnight. So what was what did you implement that helped you stay the course in that transition? Because as you know, whether it's you're improving your fitness or you're shifting gears in your career or whatever, we have a very natural tendency. It is only human to revert back to what is comfortable and or familiar, regardless of whether it's good for you or not. It's why we stay in toxic relationships. It's why we hang on to jobs that we absolutely hate. It's why we show up less than our highest and best self to make our circles of influence comfortable with our existence. You know, it's very much a defense mechanism for the ego. What did you put in place to help you move through that in this transition?
Discipline.
Born of?
Born of learning the lesson and getting burned.
Okay.
So
tell me more.
So my evolution from where I was when I began recreating myself to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was separated from my ex, and I was working on myself because obviously I could tell it wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And I read this book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. And I highly recommend everyone read it, men and women alike.
Mm-hmm.
But I read this book and it showed me a completely different path and a completely different way of being. And so I started remolding and recreating myself into this image, right? Based on my best understanding. Well, that relationship was already beyond the point of salvaging.
Okay.
And so it ended. And the next relationship that I got into, I was embodying the principles that I had read and learned from this book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a completely different version of me that, she met. And at some point during that relationship, I slid back into complacency and I stopped being that guy, that superior man. And I started sliding back into, lower level, lower vibrational energy and being, I mean, that just to put it completely bluntly, acting like a little beta
bitch. You can say it.
Okay, good. That's it, man. Acting like a little beta bitch. All right, I'm not afraid to say it.
But here's the question, because you're talking to a guy that grew up in a military family, and I didn't realize until right about the time I took off on my own and graduate, and we were on our last duty assignment in high school in Maryland. I was like, oh shit, I get to reinvent myself every couple of years. And I had picked up on this in middle school. I can be a new version of Michael if I completely blow it. If I'm the outcast, the black sheep, like just completely screw the pooch while we're here, wherever we are, I know that there's an end date and I get to do something new.
Yeah.
And be a different version of me. And what strikes me about that is I had a hard lesson to learn when I left the military and settled here in Arizona. And then my evolution happened in real time in front of everybody. It did not dawn on me until this later stage in my life that, oh, that thing that I benefited tremendously from, I got to start over brand new, leave all the mistakes at the last place, at the last address, and bring all the lessons learned into this new version of me. Well, now people remember that shit and they're still here, and what jumps out, you left that one relationship, made the decision that you weren't going to be that guy anymore, and you brought the new version of Aaron into this new relationship. What is the importance, or is it important, to change your environment and your circles of influence / relationships so that you can be fully that higher, better version of yourself?
It's very important.
Is it necessary? I take that back. Let me ask it better. Is it absolutely necessary?
I don't think so. I
Mm-hmm.
think that if you're determined enough and disciplined enough and committed enough to create that transformation and make that change,
Mm-hmm.
that you can achieve escape velocity from whatever those circumstances are. It will just require more energy on your part
Mm-hmm.
to get that momentum going so that you can
Sure.
extricate yourself from that situation. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did want to circle back to clarify something, which
Yeah.
is that I made the decision
Mm-hmm.
that I was not going to be that guy years before that relationship ended.
Mm-hmm.
It was just too late. We'd gotten, too much into the weeds, and
Yeah.
it wasn't going to work. So consequently, I had time to work on myself before I got into the next relationship. And it was in the point that I want to make, and I want to punctuate it so that everybody gets what I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
I improved myself, I got complacent, and I burned myself again
Yeah.
because I wasn't committed enough to that transformation to make sure that it stuck.
Got it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And um and I, fast forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Left the beta bitch behind,
Yep.
and as a result of that, and the decisions that I made, and the lessons that I learned when I got into the next relationship,
Mm-hmm.
when I told her about my past, and I was
Yeah.
completely honest and upfront about it, she
Mm-hmm.
just could not possibly conceive of me showing up in that way. She's like, I just can't. I literally cannot see it. I cannot
That's
imagine it because
that's not the
I
man she
never
was
even seen the
experiencing.
invitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I bring that up not to like, I don't want to make it all about relationships and everything.
No, I got
It's
it.
about the lessons learned and
Mm-hmm.
the applicability to different contexts.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so in any endeavor, in any area of life, it's when you learn the lesson, make sure that you anchor that in,
Yeah.
make sure that you really, you know, on a cellular level, like
Mm-hmm.
really decide that you're going to own that and
Yep.
don't allow yourself to backslide because you're going to have to learn the lesson again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be even more painful the second time because you're like, I should have known. I
Yeah.
should have known.
Well, what's crazy about that is, and why I really went after the absolutism of it is because we talked about frequency bias
Hmm.
earlier this week, and
Yeah.
that being when you see a principle at play, a universal principle at work in one sphere, you see it in all spheres, right?
Hmm.
And uh, it the question I now have is it easier to just cut bait, change the relationship, change the circle of influence, change the environment to be the better version of yourself, or to plant that flag in the ground and say, this is who I am now moving forward. You're going to have to change. What's best practice?
But well, best is a label, right? So I try to avoid,
Okay.
good, bad, better, worse, right,
Mm-hmm.
wrong, labels like that. I say labels are limitations because
Okay.
once you in your mind put a label on something, now that's what it is, and it can't be anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to remain try. I don't like that word either. I endeavor to the best of
Yes.
my ability to remain as neutral as I possibly can about different things because
Mm-hmm.
in one context it could be useful, in another context not.
Absolutely.
So with specifically with regard to the question that you just asked, and that is it quote unquote easier to cut bait and walk away or to stay in the situation and plant the flag
Mm-hmm.
because of commitment and consistency bias, right? If you're in this, let's just kind of game it out. If
Mm-hmm.
you're situation A, where you say this situation, these circumstances are not serving me, this relationship isn't serving me, my circle is lower vibrational, lower consciousness. They're interested in things I'm not interested anymore. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to play that game, right? So I don't want to go clubbing and going out to the bars and drinking all the time. Like I want to, I want to play some board games and share, break bread and
Mm-hmm.
fellowship and have these, have higher level conversations and which celebrities doing what, stuff like that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And because if you are the one in that group, in that entire environment, in that ecosystem, if you are the one thing that doesn't want to play in that sandbox anymore,
Right. Mm-hmm.
then the momentum that all of them have moving in a certain direction, and all
Yes.
of a sudden you're gonna stop, and they're gonna want to keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a concept that I've observed, and that is that when somebody decides that their current circumstances are no longer adequate, no longer
Mm-hmm.
satisfactory, I'm no longer content, that
Yeah.
I want more.
Mm-hmm.
In their pursuit of more, it makes the people around them feel uncomfortable,
Mm.
because when that one individual breaks from the status quo, it it's creates a contrast between them and their pursuit and the people around them. And the people around them who don't want to change, they
Correct.
want to maintain the status quo. They want to stay in their comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
warm pile.
Yeah.
They want to stay there. They're going to resist and try to pull that other person down. The
Crabs in a
proverbial
bucket.
crabs in the bucket,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whether it's easier, I would say it's easier to cut those ties and walk away,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's certainly less resistance
Yeah.
on the person who wants to make the transformation.
Yeah.
The question is, how important to that individual are those other relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and is it worth making the effort to bring them along and lift them up as they rise?
Yeah. Yeah.
To give them the opportunity to step
Mm-hmm.
into a different reality and a different possibility for them. And if they don't, well, I mean, I got to do
Yeah.
what's best for me.
Dude, I love this because this is my wife and I refer to it as updating and upgrading our agreements.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
When this is a concept born of a lot of work on ourselves as individuals and our relationship, and also my absolute disdain for the word compromise. When you talk to folks that embody what it is to be a successful couple, whatever that means to you, right? And you ask them, what's the secret? You've been together 50 years, 35 years, 15 years. What's the secret? And the lay down answer is compromise, right? We've all heard it, you know, and what's come to me is because the way we use it in the Western lexicon would imply that we both lost something when we compromise, right? Would you agree?
That certainly is the connotation, yes.
Okay. So that being said, if we make an agreement, you and I, on something that is between us and not us, that agreement. You following? Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So my wife and I, when we got together, she was making good money. She was crushing it in life. And then she transplanted down here and continued down that path. We got married, started having kids. She left corporate, launched her thing. The pandemic happened. That all fell apart. She came into business together with me, right? And all of this is happening under the premise, the now outdated agreement that she was going to continue to work. Okay. I came home and had a moment of clarity after an 8-day retreat where we did, like, I shit you not, 10 to 12 hours a day for 8 days straight of deep work on self. And I had this moment of clarity where it had become beyond obvious and like nothing like earth shattering in terms of the friction in our relationship, but I could feel that it was there and neither of us were calling it out. And we were sitting down, her and I said, hey, and we're getting ready to transition the gym and all that good stuff. And like, what if you were just mom in this next chapter of life and just waterworks? And her immediate response to me was, I didn't know that option was available because we were just silently operating in this outdated agreement. And when we decided as a couple to update and upgrade our agreement where she would take care of the kids. I'd make it happen out there in the world. Our lives not only got simpler, but our relationship enhanced, right? But what that requires is the willingness on both parties to play the same game, right? That conversation was so clunky. Like, it did not come out anything close to as smooth as I just described it. I didn't have the words. Wasn't able to accurately articulate what I was really getting at, but she was willing to let me fumble through it and do that exercise with me. And we do this all the time, right? Like, I preface things. I'm like, look, I don't have the words, so I'm just going to go and we're going to figure this out. And she's like, cool. Because the table we've set, the assumption that we make is that no matter how challenging the conversation is, the foundation of the whole thing is love and respect, right? So under that assumption, it allows us to do this dance together. And if you have a partner, a friend, whoever in your inner circle that is willing to do that dance with you, that is a circumstance where the value of the relationship allows you to plant that flag and step into that higher, more evolved version of yourself. Because it's not necessarily about them growing at the same rate as you, but more so about their willingness to grow at all. Does that make sense?
You brought up several things. The first thing is I watched a video recently where Simon Sinek was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Who's a well-known leadership thought leader. And in it, he was saying, my definition for a friendship and a romantic relationship and any other kind of relationship is the same. And that is that we are both committed to making each other better. And when you first started talking, the thing that popped immediately into my head was, what is required for a relationship when you move through agreements that will necessarily have to change over time, because the only constant is change. Like you cannot stay the same.
Right.
So agreements will have to change because you're not going to be the same people in 5 years that you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And for a couple to be successful, I would say there's really two important elements that need to be present. And that is a commitment to making each other better and continuing to grow together, and having the ability to communicate effectively. And let me be more specific about what I mean by that.
Sure.
And so what you said was, the way that I say it is, when you were having this conversation with your wife about shifting the agreement and what if you were just mom, that is what I call communicating about the emotion and not from the emotion.
Okay.
And that's an important distinction to make, because what a lot of people do, and I literally had a conversation with a client earlier today about this very thing, is, they do a behavior, and then you make the behavior mean something about you. So, for example, they have this thing that they want to do.
Yep.
And the thing that they're doing, I feel, is disrespectful of my needs. And so they don't care about me. And so I get reactive to that. And then, so I have a certain level of emotional intensity that now is triggering them because of their past trauma. And so we're just basically reacting to each other's reactiveness and not even really communicating about what the heck is going on in the first place.
Right.
And so having the ability to take a step back from whatever they're feeling in the moment, and be able to describe what they're feeling without actually expressing the emotion necessarily, right? You can say, you know what? I'm really angry right now. Okay. Because you just did this thing. And what I made it mean is this: the story that I told is that you don't care about me. You're being disrespectful to me. Whatever that is, right? That's how I interpreted the action. That wasn't necessarily your intention.
Right.
But that's how I interpreted it. And that's the story that I told. And now this is the feeling that I have, and that opens up the conversation. So now you're you're having a conversation from a more meta level where
Yeah.
you're both being the observers of your thoughts and your feelings and being able
Hmm.
to describe and communicate that
Right.
without being in it and
Hmm.
participating in the emotional drama inside the physical body. And you're taking a step back and you're just observing
Yep.
and relaying and
Hmm.
in committing to being non-judgmental, right? We want to
Yes.
remain as neutral as we possibly can and not impart any unintended meaning.
Right. Hmm.
And so there's a belief that I have, and it is that the meaning of communication is the response that you get. So
Oh yeah. Hmm.
it isn't what you thought you said
Yeah.
or meant to say,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't matter what the intent of the communication was. What really matters is how was it received.
Hmm.
And so, as effective communicators, it is incumbent upon us to accept the responsibility to not only communicate as accurately as we can about what's going on internally over here,
Hmm.
but also to deliver the message in as as close as possible to the way that they need to hear it
Yes.
in order to
Hmm.
elicit the desired response.
Yeah.
So we also have to consider the filters and the perspective of the listener,
Yep.
right? And sometimes that requires some additional acknowledgement on our part.
Mm. I feel that is an extremely high level tactic of communication. And pot calling the kettle black. And having done this dance, I'm recounting so many times where that level of comprehension of communication was necessary for the outcome that I desired. And my ego said, why the fuck do I need to change? Why won't you just do what I told you to do? And what we teach is, if you effective communication quite simply is message intended is message received. Emphasis on the received part. Anything short of that is awful communication. So, and others, depending on the community that you're bridging, would say that's also indicative of code switching, right? Are you familiar with that term?
I think I'm
Yeah.
not sure about exactly the context you mean, but I've heard the term before.
Yeah, black people talking white and so on and so forth.
Yes,
Um,
ABE and all that.
yeah, yeah. Um, so how do we make it okay for the communicator to shift the language as necessary to make sure that the message intended is the message received and not perceive that to be a compromise of their integrity to make that happen, to interpret that shift in any way other than what is absolutely necessary to get the message across.
My answer to that would be what do we need to do is we need to shift our focus from the process to the outcome.
Mhm.
And that the most important metric should be, are we achieving the desired result and not judging how we got there?
Mm,
Because if, for example, right, to use your example of code switching,
yeah.
well, there's going to be a certain style of language that is going to connect more with certain individuals based on their experiences and backgrounds.
Mhm.
That if you delivered the message in a different style, they would not receive it. They would
Mhm.
reject it. And so if the objective is to, to help them out or to give them the support that they need or to achieve whatever your desired outcome is,
Mhm.
well then the whichever style of language we use should be the one that's most likely to achieve that outcome.
I know that.
Yeah,
You're
so
not gonna get any pushback from me. I
yeah,
just,
I mean
you
it's
know.
focused on the outcome. But that's also my philosophy, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Is when I teach my clients a very simple framework that that we use in trying to achieve our results, right? It's you
So,
take an action,
mhm.
you observe the result, and then you adapt the behavior.
Okay.
then you take the next action, right?
Mhm.
And we're not judging it in the meantime, either ourselves for the result or the
Yep.
process itself, the behavior, because the behavior is just a behavior. Whether
Mhm.
it's useful or not useful, we have to try it out and see,
Yeah.
but that's
Mhm.
it. Action, observation, adaptation. And we just
So
keep that loop.
what is it about that process that some would consider or deem to be inauthentic?
I don't know. I've never had anybody accuse me of being inauthentic. I mean, I would say that maybe the biggest challenge in that process is
Mhm.
that people have a tendency to judge themselves and beat themselves up and punish themselves when they get it quote unquote wrong, which is why try to stay away from good, bad, right, wrong, better, worse type language, because once you label it as, ooh, that was wrong, that was bad, then what that does is it creates an associated emotion in the body that
Mhm.
we have been indoctrinated into. That we
Mhm.
don't want to raise our hand and get the wrong answer because then we're embarrassed and we're judged and all the kids are laughing at us in class, right? We still have that same, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to get it wrong instinct as adults that we've
Right.
carried with us all the way from then. And
Mhm.
so here's the thing that I tell people that I want them to remember. You only know that something was a mistake in hindsight.
Uh-huh.
You have to observe with 2020 hindsight
Mhm.
the result of the behavior to determine whether it was what you wanted or what you didn't want,
Mhm.
right? And when we talk about the full range of possibilities that are available, and we have a very specific target that we want to hit, right? That is the bullseye in the middle of the target, and literally everything else is not the bullseye. We have
Mhm.
the target and then everything else which is not the target. And the problem is not that there's so much more not the target than there is the target, and that the
Mhm.
target's so small. The problem is that people have a tendency to punish themselves when they don't hit the target,
Right.
you know? And so
Mhm.
that is the problematic part of the process that we want to eliminate, because what happens is we do a thing, we
Mhm.
assess the value of the
Mhm.
thing, right? Which we then take personally, and
Yeah.
we associate ourselves with the value of the result that we just got rather
Mhm.
than it being ascribed to the behavior only.
Right.
And then they spend a lot of time in that low vibrational energy, beating
Mhm.
themselves up and I'm not good enough and
Right.
feeling guilty and shame and all these other things. And the problem is it pulls them out of the higher vibrational, more productive, powerful, useful, resourceful energies of confidence and motivation and
Yeah.
joy and love and excitement. That
Mhm.
those are the emotional states that are conducive to success.
Yeah.
And then the beating ourselves up and punishing ourselves over the mistakes we make
Mhm.
puts us in a disempowered state, which is not resourceful, not useful
Right.
to creating the outcomes that we want.
So
So
it's not the missing that's the issue. It's the fixation on missing that brings your vibration down.
yes,
Okay. So I feel like that's a very important distinction to make for the sake that a lot of people I won't say most a lot of people are afraid to even try.
because they're afraid of getting it wrong
Right.
and what that would mean about them.
But it's not the getting it wrong part. It's not the missing the target that's the
Mm-mm,
issue. It's the
no.
fixation on missing that's going to keep you off track.
And the association that they've made with what it means.
Okay.
So it isn't the missing that's the problem.
Mhm.
It's the missing means I'm not good enough. And now I feel not good enough. That's the
Mhm.
problem. And so ultimately what it is the real problem is the unconscious program of not good enough that prevents people from getting into action because they're afraid of missing, because
Mhm.
then it means they're not good enough.
Yeah.
So when we have these unconscious fears, then what the unconscious mind does, because its job is to protect us and keep us alive,
Yep.
if we have these unconscious fears, the unconscious mind will distract and blank the mind. We'll do brain fog, we'll do distraction, we'll do avoidance, we'll do procrastination, right? To avoid a situation where we could confirm that fear.
Mhm.
And so for a lot of folks, it's easier and more comfortable to sit in the not knowing of I'm afraid that that's true versus putting themselves in a situation where it could be potentially proven true.
Right.
I want to be specific. It's not even proving it true. It's just confirming it for themselves because of that confirmation bias.
Mhm. How do we get past that?
Well,
How do we convince ourselves to bravely take that swing?
the easy answer is just do it anyway.
That's very Jocko. Do it,
You know?
go.
Yeah,
Oh no,
I mean,
what is he says go. Yeah.
this is my Mel Robbins 5 4 3 2 1 go.
Mm-hmm.
I
5 second
definitely
rule.
channel the David Goggins, Alex Hormozy energy of
Mm-hmm.
just freak it, just do the thing, and
Yeah.
there gets to be a point where people have allowed their fears and doubts to stop them enough that they
Mm-hmm.
finally get to a point where they go, you know what, that's it, I'm sick of this, I'm done with this crap, and a decision point happens.
Yeah.
That is the moment of transformation where they say, I am done
Mm-hmm.
letting that crap stop me from living the life I want to live. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I don't care. I have built up so much energy and determination that I'm going to smash through
Yeah.
whatever that barrier, that
Mm-hmm.
obstacle, that roadblock is. I'm going to smash it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. Or they could follow various processes of, becoming aware of the limiting thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
if somebody, so the point at which we interrupt the process in the cycle in the loop is the feeling that we have,
Mm-hmm.
becoming aware of the feeling, present to the feeling. Because when we have a feeling that we don't like, right, this is an indication that there's something happening that's unnatural. So
Mm-hmm.
my belief is that it is not our nature to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, anything that causes suffering must be unnatural. Anything unnatural is untrue. So any thought which creates a feeling of discomfort or suffering in the body is an untrue thought. So when we have a feeling we don't like, we ask ourselves, what was I just thinking about? What were the thoughts
Mm-hmm.
that I was just having, right? To identify what is the I'm not good enough, I'm afraid of getting it wrong, because I don't deserve, or I'm not worthy, whatever it is that people say, I don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is it that you identified? Well, whatever it was that created the feeling, because it's unnatural, is untrue.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, what we want to do, because we understand confirmation bias is forcing us to find information that's consistent with that limitation,
Yep.
right? So we have to make a conscious decision to search for the evidence of the opposite.
Disconfirming
So
information. Yep.
if I'm not good enough creates suffering, therefore untrue, well, then some form of I am good enough or I'm enough must therefore be true. So what we do is we then look back through our memory banks over the past, and we go, where in my life can I find evidence that I'm good enough? And
Mm-hmm.
we make a conscious decision to focus on doing, of finding that,
Yeah.
right? And so that's the process that they can do. Learning by repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a practice that's useful over time. I still do it myself,
Oh yeah.
and it is a lifelong process that we are always going to be, to some varying degree, observing our own reactions to things and then
Yeah.
seeking to learn what we can. The
Mm-hmm.
shortcut is installation, and
Okay.
that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
Is the client comes to me, they have some unknown resistance, some block that they don't know what's going on, but they just know that they're not doing the thing that they need to do. They
Mm-hmm.
know what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not doing it.
Yep.
That internal resistance, like that's what I call the doing problem. And
Yeah.
so we figure out what exactly is that program that's getting in the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That limiting belief that prevents them from getting into action because they're afraid of confirming it.
Yep.
And then utilizing different techniques, including hypnosis, to get rid of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we literally can rewire and reprogram those subconscious beliefs in a matter of minutes, hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally just yesterday had a client come in with 40 plus years of nervous system dysregulation, anxiety, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, hypervigilance.
Yeah.
At, at the end of 90 minutes, she said, I feel the safest in my body I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'm going to go take a 4 hour nap now.
Yeah.
I feel so calm. She goes, I've never felt better. I'm going to go take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how fast we can achieve these types of results. So
Is it as simple as mm, let's talk about self-worth, right? I'm experiencing feelings of being unworthy, not worth it. Uh,
mhm,
lack of value.
Yeah, I'm a
Is it
burden.
is it as simple as simply asking yourself where I need to find a place in my past where I felt valued? Is
I
it is that an oversimplification of the process?
I wouldn't say it's an oversimplification. Maybe I oversimplified it.
Okay.
So I described the framework and the process by which we kind of
Mhm.
manually go and unwind those old programs
Mhm.
in it from a conscious
Yep.
observation, perspective.
Mhm.
And it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
the practice of observing our thoughts and feelings, right? To
Mhm.
become the observer or the noticer,
Yep.
it is a practice, right?
Mhm.
And it's something that we get better at. And the more we do it, right? And here's a key component. The
Yeah.
more the more we're able to get out of our head
Mhm.
down into our heart,
Yes.
where the inspiration lives,
Mhm.
and to trust the answers that we
Yep.
get from
Mhm.
the unconscious mind, right? If we
Mhm.
ask the unconscious mind, is this good for me or not? You'll know. You'll have an instantaneous
Yes.
feeling of knowing,
Mhm.
right? And so whatever it is, it's like, okay, unconscious mind. And I actually like to imagine the unconscious mind as a completely separate entity. And I'm
Yeah.
having a conversation with it that it's not me.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it's not me,
Mhm.
right? It actually isn't me.
Right.
But I have a conversation with it like, like it's a 5-year-old and takes everything personally because
Yeah.
it is and it does. And so
Mhm.
I say, okay, unconscious mind, and I address it directly just like that. What is it that we were just thinking about or that you were just thinking about right before that feeling? And
Mhm.
it'll come up. And we have to learn to listen and learn to trust the
Okay.
answer.
Yeah.
And then once we have the answer of, whatever that limiting thought was,
Yep.
I don't belong, I'm a burden, I'm not worthy, I don't
Mhm.
deserve, whatever it is, then we go, okay, yes. Now we go in search of evidence of the opposite
Mhm.
in the past because the
Yes.
reality is we probably do have plenty of evidence. We just
Mhm.
ignored it
Yep.
because it was inconsistent with our beliefs.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, how do we talked about frequency bias. How do we get confirmation bias to work in our favor? Because you talked about the remedy, the easier way is installation,
Mhm.
right? And leveraging confirmation bias from that perspective. How do we make that happen?
Confirmation bias. Well, confirmation bias means our tendency to notice things that
Mhm.
are or interpret things in a way that's consistent with what we already believe to be true.
Mhm.
And this is why the social media algorithms are so dangerous, is
Oh,
because
yes, the algorithm is your fault, baby.
they are so advanced in terms of like they know how long you are on a piece of content. You know how
Mhm.
many they know how many times you watch a piece of content. They know what you engage with. They know what you comment on. They know what you like, share and save.
Mhm.
They even track eye movements through your front facing camera. Okay, when you're on these
Yeah.
platforms,
Mhm.
so they have a tremendous amount of information about you. So and the whole purpose of social media is to keep your eyeballs on the platform so they can show you more ads and
Mhm.
generate more revenue.
Right.
And so I went from at one time believing that there was uh, a politically dichotomous agenda at play,
Mhm.
and then I realized it doesn't matter which side you're on. You can fall down a rabbit hole on the left and a rabbit hole on the right and be in your
Mhm.
echo chamber and never see anything from the other side.
Mhm.
And then I realized it's all just a distraction.
Yeah.
It's all just, for the purpose of dividing people along, increasingly small lines.
Sure.
But the algorithm, it hijacks that, right? And it
Yep.
feeds us what we already believe. So it's really easy for us now to go find information that proves that we're right. And
Yeah.
people love to be right,
Mhm.
right? In fact, a really great technique for eliciting information, if you want to get information from somebody, is to make a statement that's incorrect. and they will feel compelled to correct you. Even to the point where they're giving up valuable information that they would not otherwise give had you asked for it, they wouldn't have told you. But because you made an incorrect statement, now they're going to freely offer that because they feel that internal drive, that compulsion that they have to correct what's
Yeah.
wrong, right? So it's an innate human need. So what we want to do is we need to focus, make a conscious effort to focus on searching for the evidence that proves that we are good enough, that we do belong, that we do deserve, that we are worthy, right? We make a conscious effort to search for that, and simultaneously paying attention and being vigilant and diligent about noticing when that negative thought comes up, that we catch it and we go, nope, cancel, reject, delete. That's what I do. Cancel, reject, delete. I reject that. And then switch it, flip it. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough. No, cancel, reject, delete. I'm good enough. Right. Affirmations is a really powerful technique for this.
Oh yeah.
And I know affirmations get poo-pooed.
Dude.
And, you know, I say, look, leverage every technique that you possibly can, because when you stack all these things on top of each other, it gets exponentially easier. And the way that I recommend people utilize affirmations is to create a I am statement, because I am, most powerful words in the English language. I am. Whatever comes after that, that's the reality that you create.
Yep.
Tony Robbins says the most powerful force in the universe is our desire to remain consistent with who we believe ourselves to be. Our internal self-concept and identity is the thing that our unconscious mind will do everything in its power to be consistent with. And if that's I'm not good enough, I don't belong, well, guess what? That's what's going to show up.
Yep.
So when it pops up, we go, nope, that's it. It's the opposite that's true. And we utilize these affirmations using I am statements stated as if now, not like I can express myself. No, I am fully expressed. Right. So it's as if now. And what'll happen is, because it isn't true in the present moment, the unconscious mind has a tendency to go, that's nonsense. That's not true. And then you'll feel silly while you're standing in front of the mirror looking at yourself saying these things that you know consciously aren't true. And the unconscious mind is going, come on, this is silly. This is dumb. But if you keep doing it and push through it, eventually what you'll find is that it gets to feel more and more comfortable, and it feels more and more right, until eventually you get to the point where I'm enough, I'm loved, I'm supported, I'm worthy, I deserve, where you own that truth
Yes.
in your bones on a cellular level, right? And at the point where it's like, yeah, of course, I know that. And that old program stops coming up. It's like, all right, great. Now you've shifted that. Now you can move on to something else.
Yep.
Use it as long as it's useful, and then pivot when it's not.
Dude, I love that, because there was a period of time, for people that have been listening for a while, they know about my getting kicked out of school journey, the inciting incident of my hero's journey. And as I was being introduced to my conscious personal growth and development journey, affirmations got put in front of me for the first time. And dude, I had a binder full of them, and I was always the kind of guy, even as an athlete, he said, Michael, go run through that wall, you'll be a better player. Okay, cool, let's go do that. And that's just how I took in coaching. And when affirmations got put in front of me, I pulled out every page in that binder and I put them up all over my house. People, like the girls that would come over to the crib at the time, thought I was absolutely insane. They were in front of the toilet, on the roof, above the
Like a
bed,
beautiful mind,
in the cupboard, fucking everywhere, dude. I was in such a dark place for such a long time, dude. I took everything and applied it. And man, to your point, even if you don't feel like you're noticing it at a conscious level, your subconscious is picking up all of that shit all the time.
100%.
And dude, is when I got told that, I was in such a position to receive everything. To your point, like I will not tolerate this version of me anymore. I was so ready. I was in such a state of change readiness.
Yeah.
That no matter what dude, if they told me, dude, eat a clove of garlic every night before you go to bed, you'll be a better person for it. In that period of my life, I would have done it. And dude, affirmations started to pull me out of that dark place. And I started believing in myself again, and good things started happening, but that's just a part of the equation. But like when you say they get poo-pooed, I'm like, no. They fucking saved me, dude.
There's a tendency that people have to assume that the basics are basic.
Beneath
And
them.
yeah, they move on to more advanced tech. Oh, yeah, I've done that. That's for beginners,
Yeah.
But they fail to remember that the best athletes in the world drill the basics more than anything else. Right? Block and tackle.
Yep.
Like it's the basics that get you through. The basics are the foundation.
Yep.
And I've heard so many folks, badmouth affirmations, and it's like, maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe everybody, it isn't the most effective technique for everyone. But I have seen it do far more good than not. And another really powerful way to utilize affirmations is to record yourself saying them out loud, and then listen to yourself speaking them right before you're going to bed, and then right as your first thing when you're waking up in the morning.
That's how I start my day.
And the reason is because, for the benefit of your audience, for those who don't know, the reason is because when you go from beta brainwaves, which is alertness and awake, to asleep, which is delta brainwaves, you pass through alpha and theta. Alpha is a light trance and theta is a deep trance. And so you naturally pass through these brainwave states as you're falling asleep and as you're returning to wakefulness. And what's happening is your brain is in a hypnotic state.
Yes.
And so it is very, very suggestible in that state. And so when I do hypnosis with clients, they're either in alpha or theta.
Sure.
Most of the work, the techniques that I do with clients, they're in alpha state. They're in a lighter state of trance where they're still consciously aware of what's going on and they can talk and all of this. But I'm very capable of sliding these suggestions in directly to the unconscious mind so that we create that transformation that much faster. And so folks can leverage that natural hypnotic, hypnagogic state, I think it's called, but that natural hypnotic state, right in that twilight space between sleep and awake, so that they can literally self-hypnotize themselves into with these affirmations. And actually, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, really. I just provide the instructions, but they still have to do the thing.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Dude. So if somebody's on a mission to get out of their own way in your practice, first of all, awareness is the first step. We've talked about that. Once you're aware that you're in your own way, what's the next step to overcoming you? Like, fuck, now I own it. It's me. Got it. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm paying attention now. What do I do with that?
Well, the first question I would ask you is that a problem for you? Because if it's not a big enough problem, you're not going to change.
Right.
It has to, the realization is one thing, right? The acknowledgement is one thing, but people spend years in the acknowledgement phase, realizing that there's a problem, but it's not a bad enough problem. They're willing to do anything about it. And so the first thing is that a problem for you? Okay. And are you committed to resolving it? Do you want to actually create the transformation? Because if the answer is no, it's like, all right, well, I'm ready when you're ready. So there has to be a certain level of commitment to doing the thing. And in fact, when I talk to clients, I'm like, if you're not a 10 out of 10 committed, then I'm not wasting your time, my time and your money, because nothing's going to work. Like, you
Right.
have to be fully committed to the I will walk you through it. I will guide you. I'll support you. I will take a stand for you, and I will fight.
Yeah.
And if you're not 100% committed, then I can't help.
Mm-hmm.
So that there has to be the level of commitment there first, and
Yeah.
the willingness to do the work, whatever that is. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the point where their current situation becomes sufficiently uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
that they're willing to overcome whatever is in between where they're at and where they want to go,
Yep.
that is the point at which the teacher will appear, and they're actually ready for the work. They're ready to do the process.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dude.
I'm going to evaluate that first.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love that. Where that's a great place to cap it today, man. I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for making this happen, brother. Where can the audience find Aaron, learn from Aaron, and connect with you?
So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram, it's at Coach Aaron Morrison. They got all my links in the thing in there. And can I do a little giveaway thing?
Oh, let's rock, man, for sure. I'll get it in the show notes.
All right.
Let them know.
So we talked a little bit before about burnout and overwhelm and stress and all of these unproductive thought patterns uh, being, I mean, it's a lot of different labels that people put on it, but ultimately it's the unconscious mind programming that's causing the problem, and it manifests as anxiety and stress. And I did a Google Trends search the other day, and I pulled up anxiety, stress, and depression, and the three lines, they map like right on top of each other.
Oh
They're
my gosh.
identical. Yeah, go to my Facebook. It literally, I posted the image up there. It's like, look at this. Is this not crazy? So for the folks who like, the number one skill that someone can have is the ability to effectively emotionally self-regulate. Right. So the way that Hormozy says it, he says, the ability to remain in a good mood when there's, in the absence of things to be in a good mood about. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
how do we keep our energy up here when circumstances are down here? How do we remain non-reactive, and how do we avoid getting yanked and pulled around by external circumstances and not in control of our internal emotional state?
Yeah.
Well, I've created a technique to do exactly that, and it's called the 2-minute reset. And you can find it at www.easyanxietyhack.com. And it's just go check it out. And I do it. I love doing it live, because every time, like, who wants to get rid of their anxiety in 2 minutes? And everybody's like, I do. And then there's always one person that goes, you can't do that. There's always one person scoffing in the audience.
Yeah.
So we do the technique, which is exactly www.easyanxietyhack.com. Do that technique live, and then afterward, I'm like, all right, now whose anxiety either significantly reduced or completely eliminated? And every single time, it's the scoffer is one of the people that raises their hand.
Oh, nice.
They didn't believe it, but they still got the result, and that's how powerful this stuff is.
Okay. Awesome.
So I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you and your audience, man. It was fun.
Dude, massive value, man. Most definitely. And I'm looking forward to all the collaboration that's going to be born of this relationship, man. I'm pumped to know you, and I'm glad to know you more, man. For everybody out there listening, remember, go check out CoachDurs.com and join us in the Next Level Village, where we can build the fittest leaders together through integrity, courage, and ownership. Until next time, progress always.